If the beat is trash, I'm not even gonna get to the lyrics. And if I get to the lyrics and the vocals aren't processed well, I'm turning the song off too.
Okay, so somebody had posted this. I don't think people realize Tecca is only 22 and is one of the youngest artists to go platinum with no features since Michael Jackson. That moment, when you read that, what was going through your mind?
I already know. I'm just glad that someone else said it.
I love this.
With summer being right around the corner, there's always a select group of artists that try to capitalize off the warm weather, summer parties, and outdoor live performances, with Lil Tecca being no exception. From 2019 till today, he's consistently dropped music, releasing 5 projects in that time frame, with his 6th project DOPAMINE releasing sometime later this year. And unlike many of his contemporaries, Tecca stayed relevant despite blowing up in one of the most toxic, clout-driven eras in hip-hop. So today we're going to delve deep into Tecca's craft and figure out how he's been able to drop melodic rap albums year after year with his fans still asking for more. Before you start thinking, Tecca's not a lyricist, why am I starting off with that? Well, an undeniable feat about Tecca's career is his ability to stay consistent, which can be explored through his subject matters and writing styles. Subject matter wise, when you put on some new tech, you know you're gonna get some standard braggadocious rap lyrics about girls, money, fashion, smoking, etc. But when Tech delivers those bars, he sounds oddly authentic, even though we all know that's not the case.
I don't have no straps for nobody. I don't got no straps.
But in spite of the cap, Tecca's writing style seamlessly blends into his rap persona and talking about his lifestyle, which is a thin boundary many rappers can't manage. But Tech doesn't cap to the point where it makes you want to turn off the song, but rather adds flair and character to his tracks. From day one, his style of writing has always prioritized the melody first, with the actual lyrical content coming second.
Every good movie don't gotta be based on a true story. Because at the end of the day, I'm a melody writer, I'm a songwriter. If I can get you to bop your head, my job is done.
So for Tech, keeping it simple with his raps and talking about subject matters that his fans are used to hearing has always worked well with his style. This writing style also gives Tech the ability to focus on more important areas of his music, such as coming up with catchy flows. It almost feels like Tech approaches rap the same way a pop artist approaches their music, prioritizing the melody by mapping out the flow first and then punching in or even freestyling the lyrics that match the vibe. The ability to freestyle songs is another element that enhances creativity, as he's mentioned locking into a flow state as his favorite method of making music. He's also heavily credited Juice WRLD for providing him the blueprint on freestyling a verse, as he saw him do this for his verse on the Ransom remix.
Basically, he did the verse, he did it in like one take, but it kind of fried me, bro, because I didn't really know people were doing stuff like that at the time. I was just really used to like writing shit and then reading it off my phone, like da da da, let's go to the next line, da 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 da, bro hop in, da 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 da,
But one of the biggest criticisms when it comes to Tech's lyrics is that it may seem a bit surface level at first glance, as he doesn't dive deep into too many subject matters. However, writing is only one part of the creative process, and you can't talk about Tech's sound without looking into his stellar beat selection. With each album drop, Tech's production has gotten better and better, as he's got a really good ear for choosing beats that fit the mood of a song. A lot of his tracks have a fun, warm sound, and his beats definitely reflect that, but even when it comes to rapping about more heartfelt, melancholic subject matters, Tech still manages to find the perfect beat. Take Mama off of Plan A, a track where Tech describes his young, fast-paced, chaotic lifestyle and how that could be worrying from a parent's perspective, as it may seem a bit too much for Tech to handle. But over a relaxed, melodic trap beat, Tech lets his vocals shine and eases his mum's mind by reassuring her that her advice won't fall on deaf ears and that he won't waste this opportunity. Even take the song that put him on the map, Ransom, claiming that when he first heard that beat, he knew it was the one, and there were definitely no lies told there.
Cause like even Ransom kind of like, it sounds kind of like dance hall-y, like a little bit, like it's like, you know, it has like that Allen vibe to it.
No, it takes direct inspiration. Even if you ask Taz Taylor, he'll tell you that he told Nick Mira to make a Afro trap beat, word for word.
Were you cool with that? Because that doesn't sound like your other stuff. Like, were you hesitant at all? Like,
when I heard that beat, that was that was the beat I was looking for my whole life.
On his earlier projects like We Love You Tecca and Virgo World, there wasn't a whole lot of album sequencing, and it sounded more like a collection of songs that Tech handpicked and threw onto a project. However, as time progressed and Tech grew as an artist, it's clear that this strategy was no longer going to work, and he needed to switch things up to keep evolving his sound. Luckily for him at the time, you had producers like Metro Boomin and Pierre Bourne start to take advantage of using transitions between songs. As a result, Tech incorporated this tactic on his newer projects, Tech and Plan A, which complemented his melodic style perfectly and increased the replay value of those albums as a whole, as listeners are more inclined to play multiple tracks back to back thanks to their seamless transitions.
When you were in the studio making the album, was that something that you always wanted to do, is like make sure all the transitions were on point, the sequencing was on point?
Yeah, with that, it was just, I took really long dropping this album. It took like 2 years, so I kind of wanted it to sound like it took 2 years to make it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to cut around the edges and like give something that could have been way better and just hold myself back.
Yeah.
Although Tech's musical talent is integral to his success as an artist, all of that wouldn't have been possible without his consistent work rate and forward-thinking mindset when it comes to developing his craft and evolving as an artist. I think we all know this by now, but Tech was 16 when he dropped Ransom. I remember being in the 11th grade listening to that song thinking, how the fuck is he the same age as me? But what's even more impressive is that he mostly did this on his own. Yes, he did link up with Taz Taylor and the Internet Money Crew when he made Ransom and a Lyrical Lemonade music video to go along with it, but prior to that point, Tech had already released several songs that were making noise on SoundCloud while he was still in high school. So him doing what he did at 16 is crazy, but crucially, he stuck around to this day, and having a song like Ransom be a hit while he was still so young is low-key a blessing and a curse.
Having a big song early in your career is not a good thing. It's a bad thing. You don't want to have a hit early in your career. You want to have a hit 3 years into your career.
So to avoid being labeled a one-hit wonder, Tech had to lock in and show that he was here to stay by being able to produce more bangers and develop a solid fan base. He also had to grow up quick, and to this day he shows a strong sense of maturity, which is rare to see among new artists, as it's common to see rappers from his generation blow up quickly only to fall into a darker path later on, but not Tech.
What I do is a like synthesization of like what's going on in my mind. So if I'm in a really dark place, that can kind of leak into my craft.
Right. Okay, this is so interesting. You have an old soul. I don't know if anybody else has ever told you this, but you are so wise.
He's even become somewhat of a style icon, putting together tough fits that add to the aesthetic of his smooth and easygoing vibe. Music alone isn't what keeps Tech relevant, it's the full package, how he moves on social media, his fashion, fan interactions, and overall personality that all elevate his brand, and there's nothing really controversial about him. With Lil Tecca, you either like his music and you tune in, or you don't, which is cool as well, as I can't really think of anything related to his style or how he carries himself that would turn somebody off outside of their personal music taste. And with his upcoming project DOPAMINE coming out later this year, you already know Tech's diehard fans and casuals alike will be eating good, as he's definitely gonna go 6 for 6 and yet again save another summer.